Hi, my name is Drea, and welcome to the Connection Diaries. I know it's been some time. I've been enjoying the summer, but I wanted to get on here and talk about a message or a topic that I think is really, really important, which is how to make friends in your adulthood. Specifically, we're going to be thinking about how to make new friends online. One thing that I hear a lot of people talk about when I'm in session with them one on one or just as I go throughout life it's just how difficult it is to make friends, how they feel like they've outgrown their friends, how they feel disconnected from their friends as each friend goes through different stages of life, whether that be parenthood or getting married or dating, or maybe they're going through mental health challenges that causes the relationship to shift. And so you may be in a space where you're like, I'm longing for a deeper connection. I'm longing for a deeper sense of community. I'm longing to be seen in a way that I haven't been seen and emotionally held in a way that I haven't been held platonically or maybe even romantically. And some of this can apply to anybody that's on dating apps. But what we're going to talk about today is more so platonic connection. And again, how to meet people online. This week, I actually have 4 friendship dates, which I'm really, really excited about. And I was like, you know what? Instead of just enjoying my time this week, why don't I get on here and talk about how other people can be more successful when it comes to meeting people online, making new friends in adulthood, and actually meeting people in real life so that you can build community and so that you can have like the sense of friendship that maybe you've been longing for, not the sense of friendship that maybe you've been settling for, or maybe you're like, this is as good as it gets. No, it gets better. There's a lot of people out there that are longing for connection and friendship and intimacy in the same way that you are. But what it takes is you being brave and vulnerable and honest about your desire for connection and for community, and to say, like, I'm going to put myself out there and I am going to try to make new friends. So, with that in mind, I want to give you a couple of tips that have helped me be successful when it comes to like making new friends, connecting with people. And when I think about making new friends, I'm not talking about making more what I call like shallow or surface level relationships. Relationships where you might, be friendly or you're like, oh, we should hang out, but you never hang out. Relationships where it's more so rooted in convenience, or maybe these are people that are just in the same spaces that I tend to frequently visit, but I don't feel connected to them. I'm not talking about that kind of friendship. I'm talking about friendship where you feel seen and heard and loved and connected, and you feel like you can be vulnerable and it's intimate. That's the type of friendship that I long for. And it's kind of rooted in my personal value of intimacy and, yeah, really intimacy. Like, I want everything in my life to feel like home. I'm a homebody. I like being at home. I like that everything in my home has been, intentionally curated to feel for me to feel held, right? And so when I leave my home and when I'm in the context of my relationships, I also want to feel that intimacy. And let's talk about how we get there. So I have this little piece of paper with a couple of notes because I just want to make sure I touch on everything. And I just want you to grab a piece of paper and take some notes, and let's see if it helps you make some new friends as we go into the August season. We got one more month of summer where a lot of people are outside, a lot of things to do, outside. A lot of times it could be things that are for free, which is really nice, to a nice environment to make friends. So let's talk about what that looks like. So the first thing I'm going to say is we're talking about meeting people online. And so the app that I suggest is an app called Bumble BFF, and it's a friendship app. And that app is designed specifically for people who are looking for friends. They do have a dating version, but this one, Bumble BFF, is for friendship. So that's the app that I'm going to talk about today because that's where I found the most success when it comes to building friendship. But there's other apps such as Meetup, such as so many different Facebook groups, Instagram, TikTok. There's so many different ways that you technically can interact with people, but you kind of pick which area feels good for you. I'm going to make the suggestion of Bubble BFF for the sake of this video. If you know of any other platforms, go ahead and do that. And this video is for folks who maybe feel like a little bit shy when it comes to making friends. You're not the type of person who's going to go to a coffee shop and walk up to a stranger and ask them to join, if you can join them, or you're not going to go to a party and be like, hey, like, actually, I want to be, sometimes those can be awkward situations. So this is for people who are like, I want new friendship, but where do I go? How do I start? To me, it makes sense to go to a place where there's other people who are also saying, I also want friends. And the idea is that you're meeting these folks online, not for the friendship to stay online, but for the friendship to go into real life. And we're going to talk about how that occurs. So the first thing I want you to think about is I want you to think about matching with people that you feel a little bit of resistance to. A lot of times we carry our own stereotypes, our own biases, right? That can connect us from, or prevent us from connecting with people. So I might only, want to match with people who I find stereotypically attractive, for example, or I might only match with people who, based off my bias, they appear to be cool, or they appear to, have their stuff together, or they appear, whatever your bias may be. Subconsciously, you may be attracting certain energy towards you. And if you've been through any trauma, sometimes that energy is not the energy that you desire. And so, what I want you to do is when you're scrolling through this app, I want you to be a little bit more intentional about reading people's descriptions, reading their captions, seeing how much thought that they're putting into what they're interested in their bios. Not so much just the pictures, right? Because these are platonic connections, and we don't have to necessarily just look at them and see like, oh, I like how they wear their hair, I like how they dress. That could be a shallow way to connect with someone. Not saying you can't, admire or look at those things, but you want to think about, what does this person's caption say? What are their interests, and what are they like? What things do we have in common? What things do we not have in common? And so if you feel a little bit of resistance towards a person just off the bat, sometimes it could be your intuition saying that this person's not for me based off something that's actually on their profile. But if it's just off of like something that is a little bit more surface or shallow, I want to challenge you to lean into it a little bit more and be more open-minded and say, okay, like maybe this could be someone that could be a cool friend, if I get to know them. Because not all of us take the most aesthetically pleasing pictures. Not all of us, have stereotypically attractive features, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be a good friend, right? Or have similar values. So you're really focusing on the captions, the bios, and you're focusing on their interests and their hobbies. So what this means is, my recommendation is that you've also put a lot of intention in your captions, in your bios, in your little, profile, because you're in a space where you're like, I want friends who are also intentional, who also put effort into their pursuit of friendship, and do not see this pursuit as something that's like casual or lax, right? Because we're trying to attract more intimate, deeper connections, not connections that are surface level, connections that are rooted on inconvenience, or connections where it's like you kind of just drop in, I see you when I see you, right? So challenge, any stereotypes that you have, right? Especially if historically you haven't had the best success in friendship, you may want to start to go a little bit against the grain and begin to connect with people who are different than what you thought. Maybe they're outside of your race. Maybe they don't share the same gender as you. Maybe they have a different sexuality as you. Maybe they have a different religion as you. These could all still be good friends, if you got to know them and to see if you actually connect and vibe. Now, if certain things like religion are really, really important to you, that's fine. But I just want you to challenge your biases a little bit. Just because this person has a different religion doesn't mean that they are a quote unquote bad person or will be a bad friend. And this broadens then your horizons when it comes to like the pool of people that you have access to potentially be in friendship with. So, yeah, that's one thing I want you to think about. The second thing I want you to think about is set boundaries. Like, one thing that I say when I'm on this particular app is, I'm not looking for pen pals. I might not put that in my bio. You can if you want to, but you're trying to set this tone that I'm not trying to just meet someone and our relationship stay in a chat box. I want to meet someone in real life. And so because of that, the way in which I interact with people that I match with looks very formal in a way. Like the first message I'm sending someone is something along the lines of like, hey, I'm so happy that we met. I'm excited that we met. I'm glad that we connected. Would you like to set up a FaceTime call or schedule a friendship date? And then I just kind of see what that person says and how they respond, because my goal is to get off of the app. And sometimes people might feel a little bit nervous about meeting in real life right off the bat, which is fair. So let's schedule a FaceTime. I still need to like have a face to face with you so we can see, do we vibe? Our energies connect? Can we carry a conversation with one another? And if that's the case, then cool. We can schedule a friendship date and get to know each other in real life and begin to build, the connection and the intimacy that we're looking for. So that doesn't happen in a chat box. I mean, for some people, maybe it works. And if that works for you, great, hold on to it. Maybe that's your boundary, right? But I would say for me, what has been most successful is to get off of the app and to meet in real life. And the app is just to give you access to people that you could potentially be in community or in connection with. It's not to stay there all day. So again, we're thinking about challenging our stereotypes, matching with people that we typically wouldn't match with. We might feel a little bit of resistance to, not that you're not going against your values or anything, but you're like going outside of your comfort zone a little bit so you can broaden your pool and maybe, lean towards energy that you find yourself a little bit resistant to because it's not familiar based off past relational patterns or past relational trauma. The second thing is we're setting boundaries, like be radically honest about what you want. We do not want pen pals. We're trying to meet people in real life. And you can also decide, like sometimes when I read in a person's bio, if they say something like, oh, I'm not on here a lot, follow me on Instagram. That's not my vibe, because I personally want someone who's like, I'm on this app actively trying to meet people. I'm intentional. I've carved out time to cultivate friendship, right? Or if someone is just like, they don't put a lot of thought into their caption, I'm not really connecting to the profile, I'm not gonna, follow them. And that's just my opinion, right? You can kind of decide what you want to do, but these are some tips to kind of increase success, I would say. um, we're trying to see people who are like actually intentional, who actually putting in effort, because we want that to translate into friendship, right? If I'm putting intention and effort here, I'm more likely to also put intention and effort when it comes to cultivating a friendship. So we're scheduling an actual date, and we're doing that right off the bat. If you are someone who are like, hey, I do have a couple questions I want to ask you, maybe a couple deal breaker things that, would be important to know before we even schedule, go ahead and ask those questions. But immediately after, we're trying to get to, meeting in real life. And you can meet anywhere, right? You can meet at a coffee shop, you can go for a walk, you can go to dinner, actually pick an activity that you would enjoy. If you're not a big restaurant person, okay, don't suggest that, right? You just want to go to a park, then suggest going to a park, but confirm the date, keep it pushing from there. Low stakes, you can let them know, no pressure if that is not something you feel comfortable with, right? But you're saying for you want to meet someone in real life. And the last tip, and like my favorite tip, is don't be afraid to be thirsty. Don't be afraid to be needy. Don't be afraid to be honest. A lot of times we try to come off like nonchalant, like, oh, I don't care, no worries. Like, like I don't have any needs, like, just kind of like trying to be the cool girl or the cool guy. And it's like, no, you get to be needy. You get to be as cringe as possible. And the reason behind that is, as I am unapologetically myself, the more cringe I am, I'm more likely to repel the people who don't really match my energy. So if I say something like, I'm really excited to like build vulnerable and deep connections, or on my profile, I think I said, I'm looking for my next platonic love story. Like I'm a lover girl looking for her next platonic love story. For some people, they be like, that's my vibe. And for other people, they're like, I'm not looking for that. Like she doing too much. Like I'm kind of looking for something more chill, more casual. That's a good thing. You should be repelling some people away, because everybody might not be, the type of friend that you desire, if that makes sense. But in order to repel people, I have to be radically honest about the kind of friendship and intimacy that I desire. I'm looking to meet people in real life. I'm looking for people who are vulnerable and emotionally open, who aren't afraid to say that, like, yeah, like I want more friends. Like I love friendship. I'm intentional about friendship. And so I'm really excited about this week. I just wanted to get on here really quick and just share, these tips and tricks so that you can, try them out. If you're like, Drea, I'm not downloading Bumble BFF, that doesn't feel good for me, then what I want you to do then is to start to go to social events and go to, or Facebook groups or spaces where you think that the type of person that you would be friends with would frequent. And then what you have to do then is kind of make the brave decision to say, hey, my name is such and such. Can we, I really like your shirt. I really like your vibe. I would love to get to know you more. Would you like to like go out for coffee, or would you like to, go out for drinks, or whatever your thing is? For some people that may feel a bit scary. For other people that might be your vibe. And maybe for other people you want to just kind of test a little bit of both, right? Try a little bit of Bumble, try a little bit of, meeting people in real life. And that is what's going to help you increase like your social, not even social, your community. It's not just about being social and having, meeting a bunch of people. It's about connection, intimacy, feeling deeply known. And so after my friendship dates, what I'll do is I'll kind of see, did we vibe? Is this a good energy? Do I love it? If I do, we're scheduling another one, and then another one. And then if I feel like that feels like not a good vibe, then I don't do it and we just keep it pushing. This is something, community and building friendship is something that's intentional. If I don't, spend the time and the effort that it takes to cultivate friendship, it just won't happen. And then that's why we get friendships where things are surface level, where we don't feel like we can be open, we don't feel like we can be emotionally held, because we just kind of settle and we don't set boundaries, and we're not radically honest about like, actually, I want something deeper. And so when I'm meeting new people, I'm upfront with that, honestly. Like I'm looking for something deeper. I'm looking for, this is what my ideal friendship looks like. Does that vibe with you? Do you like that too? And if so, we keep it pushing. If not, that's okay too. And this is a very, vulnerable process. It takes a lot of bravery to meet new people. Simba's right here. Sometimes it's easier to just stay at home with your cat like me, but sometimes it's also okay to be like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to, be brave and try to meet new people. I'm going to, go a little bit outside of my comfort zone, not too much where you're doing stuff that goes against your values or just radically against like your vibe, but allow yourself to be surprised. Allow yourself to say, I didn't think I would connect with this person, but I actually did. And again, some of these tips can be applied to dating too. But right now, I'm just thinking about the intimacy of platonic intimacy because I think a lot of people are longing for that. And I think it's something that we can't live without, at least not in the way that I feel like is fruitful and like helps our wellness, right? And I want to push back against that I can't even talk, individualistic culture that Western world kind of pushes on us, right? That isolates us and makes us think that we have to do everything alone, that we have to pull our own stuff up by the bootstraps, that we have to like, just kind of hide and mask and create culture more so where we're like, no, I want to build friendship that's intimate, that's vulnerable, where we are intentional about creating friendship dates or whatever your vibe may be. So it's Drea. I want to get on here because I feel like that's the energy of summer. And as always, remember that you are loved, that you are enough, and stay inspired. And until next time.